All right, welcome to Real Estate Success. I'm your host, Mena Badros. He's today with Mohammed Archie. Mohammed, great to have you here, man.
Thank you, sir. Nice for having me.
For sure. Hey, before we kind of dive into business, I'd love for people to get to know who you are. So, without mentioning any professional accomplishments, can you tell the people a little bit about who you are?
I'm a married man of a young daughter under two. Um, I like to have fun. I like to travel. I like to meet new people. I like to try new things. I like to push boundaries within legal limits. That should say a little bit.
Cool, awesome, man. Why did you get into real estate?
It's always kind of been a passion of mine. Even growing up, I always just liked houses. I like looking at houses. I like the construction of houses. I like the feel of homes. I like seeing that something from being built from the ground up. So it was kind of always just a passion for me, and it led into a natural segue. I got my realtor's license first, and then kind of just took it from there.
Awesome. And kind of what has your career evolved to since then? I mean, I know you got into investing and
Yeah, since I got my real estate license, I've been licensed now for about 10 years. So I still am currently helping others buy, sell, and invest. But then I also got into investing myself, and I've been doing we buy and renovate homes and we resell them. We've been doing that now for about 8 years now. So we do a couple of flips per year. It's a small team, really lean. It's really just basically me and my wife finding these deals, and we subcontract a lot of the work out. Um, I'll do minimal things myself. Over the years, I've learned how to become really good with tools. So I do a little bit of that myself sometimes. But that's kind of where we are now. We're working on building our portfolio as well. So we have a few rentals that we're building on. We have a property manager that handles those things. But we're always just kind of searching and looking for our next deal. We love to help clients. We love the helping aspect of it, because a lot of the homes that we're looking for, it's someone that's in distress and they need to sell. So we like to be a solution to a lot of their problems.
awesome. I love it. Since I also love investing and you're talking about that, I want to focus on this for a second. Um, why did you kind of choose that as a strategy if there's so many ways to invest in real estate, or why is that your current strategy of preference?
So it's the whole process for me.
Mm,
I love seeing something go from distress to almost completely new, and putting a deserving family in there and getting them to see it and make it a home.
mm,
I also understood the large business aspect of it. Um, you could do great being a realtor. I do well as a realtor, but investing in something totally different for me. It's a lot more challenging, and the returns are a lot greater as well. So that was something that really pushed me in that direction. I actually started out doing a foreclosure account. I had a great mentor of mine, and he helped me. He let me run a foreclosure account for him, and I met a lot of investors that way. And I kind of saw what they were doing, and it really piqued my interest. And I really love the process.
for those who don't know, what is a foreclosure account?
So a foreclosure account, when the bank takes a property, and when someone falls behind on their mortgage, the bank takes the property over and they have to resell it. So our job is as realtors, our job is to take those assets and resell them.
Mm,
So we had to do a lot of the footwork. It started off from knocking on the door to seeing if it was occupied, and then it would say if it's occupied, this is what you have to do. If it's not occupied, this is the next step. So we did a whole bunch of those things, like offering clients cash for keys. So we would knock on their door and say, "Hey, the bank's taking over the property. You can make this easy. We'll give you $7,000 to relocate." The bank gave us options like that. So that's what a foreclosure account really was. It was a lot of work, a lot of legwork, um, but I learned so much doing that, and it actually helps me in my business now because I kind of act like the bank before the bank. That's what I like to say. So before the bank comes and takes it, you may get a call or a knock on your door from me, and I'm a lot more friendlier than what the
yeah.
bank is. So,
Awesome. I love it. Back to kind of investing and the strategy for a second. Obviously, the long term strategy or like the goal of it. You said you kind of to build the portfolio, but what does that lead to, right? Is it building wealth? Is it
it leads to freedom.
hmm,
That's
I
the
love that.
biggest thing for me is freedom. I love being able to do what I want to do with my time. And that was the biggest thing for me. I worked at a great company. I was there for 11, 12 years. And I took a trip to Egypt. My wife is actually, she's from Egypt. So we took a trip there, and it kind of just opened my eyes to all the possibilities. I'm like,
Hmm.
this is, it's not much different than where I'm from, but it's far away, but I can do the same thing. It just kind of, it changed my mindset on things. And I was like, you know what? I have to find a way to get out of my job. And I was already a licensed realtor, and I just went extra hard in real estate. But the freedom is why I do it, because like I said, I want to do what I want to do with my time. I want to be there for my kids. I want to be there for my wife. I want to have fun. I want to travel. So this is the vehicle that allows me to do that.
Love it, man. Yeah. So I put a poll recently on my social media about fame, fortune, or freedom, and I think almost everybody selected freedom. And
Yeah.
I was interviewing on a real estate coach the other day, and he said to me, he said at some point in everybody's career in real estate, they begin to think about financial freedom, but really ultimately time freedom, right? Like that becomes the
Mhm.
goal at some point in your career. And a lot of it for me, and I think as you as well, has to do with family, right? Like I have two kids of my own now. I want to spend as much time with them as possible, and you know, not be running around everywhere. Another real estate saying is you're either running a business or running around in real estate.
Exactly. And that's where I'm at. I spoke to my wife about this the other day. I was like, I feel like I'm always hustling. I
Yeah,
don't want to feel like that anymore. It's got to be a business. It's got to be bringing in income that we know is coming in. I don't want to be chasing my next deal anymore. So that's
yeah,
what we're building. That's the goal, to say, hey, listen, this is what we need to do. I mean, I like I said, I have some rentals and I'm building that portfolio. But just seeing the rent checks come in, monthly is nice, because it's like, wow, I mean,
for sure.
have the property there. I know it's there, but I don't really see it too much. I don't deal with the problems too much, but I do get the checks from the rent. So that makes it feel nice, and it's like, this is what we're doing this for.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you're building something greater from there. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you've taken obviously your career has evolved. You've taken some pivots. You've learned some things. What has been, you would say, the thing that had the biggest impact on your real estate career?
Hmm. Just knowing what's out there,
You
knowing
mean like
that
options, the business, the industry?
options, the financing, there's so much out there that when I
Yeah,
first got into real estate, I didn't realize all that I had at my fingertips.
yeah, for
And the
sure.
more I started networking, and then the more I started talking to people, the more I started learning and creating friends within the real estate industry, I said, wait a second, there's a lot more out here than what I think. So, and a big thing that I've learned from that is you have to ask for what you want. My first flip, I asked a hard money lender. I was like, hey, listen, I need $235,000. Can you loan it? He was like, sure. So
Hmm.
I was like, okay. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it worked. I literally just I gathered up enough confidence in myself to go and ask for it, and that way, if he told me no, I was going to ask someone else until I got a yes. Um, but that's kind of what I did.
Hmm. I love that. When it comes to kind of finding distressed properties, and a lot of people, would say there is no inventory, right? Foreclosures have gone down, right? What's your kind of view, and how are you kind of still finding, opportunities? And not into detail, but just a generic overview,
Listen, there's always inventory. There's inventory everywhere if you're willing to go and find it. That's how I look at inventory. There's
right?
all these houses out here. Someone's always buying something, someone's always selling something, which means in turn someone's going to be in distress that you can help someone else. But the inventory is out there if you want to go and find it. Even if
Right.
you have to
There's
travel
always
a little bit to
opportunity.
find it. Yeah, yeah. Even if you have to travel a little bit to find it, it's there. You know.
Right. Right. Um, Back to kind of the real estate sales side, how can real estate is a whole world of its own. Once I got my license, it's like I started as an investor, right? So when I got my license, it was really to leverage for that. And then I'm like, wow, like this is
Yeah.
a whole world of its own. You can do a lot. Um, how does one keep learning, like you said, but also not get overwhelmed because you can spend a lot of time learning and not really doing much.
Analysis paralysis. I've sat down, I've learned what I needed to learn, and then you have to go and do it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. Um, learn what you need to. And I know people that have been learning and studying and learning and studying for 5 years. And like the best way that I learned and studied was by going to do it.
right? By
Um,
experience.
yep, and I stay plugged in. There are times where I'm like, I haven't been in my office as a sales agent. I haven't been in the office for 5 months. I know when it's time to plug back in and at least show my face in the office because it brings you back home. It brings you back in and say, okay, this is why we're doing this. So
Yeah,
there are times where I make sure I stop in at the office. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
cool. What advice would you give to folks kind of entering the business right now as a real estate agent?
Come in ready to work. Don't come in with the mindset of someone's going to hand you something because no one's going to hand you a thing.
Mm,
A lot of people think that I come in, I hop on a team, I'm going to do the amount of dollars in sales and get X amount of commissions. It doesn't always work that way.
I like houses. I like to help people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, where are you going to get business from?
Yeah. Yep. You got to have a plan. And if you approach it like a business, it will pay you like a business. But if you approach it like a hobby and say, "Oh, I'll do a deal here and there," that's what you're going to get is a deal here and there. But if you approach it like a business and you go in and say, I'm willing to work hard, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to give what I can. When mentors, for example, I was part of a mentor program. My rule with my mentees, and the office would always feed me mentees. My rule was, I'm going to call you once. I'm going to have my introduction call. After that, it's up to the mentee to reach out to me. That's how I looked at it. It showed
Right,
me that you wanted to work. I always let them know I'm available for you whenever you need me. But you have to make an effort in this business.
right. How do you,
Excuse me.
you're fine. The investor hat and the agent hat, right? How could you kind of use them both together and maximize on the fact that you're doing both at the same time, if that makes sense?
So I represent myself in a lot of my deals. I'm getting away from doing that. But
Okay.
when we have a flip, we'll buy a flip. I'll represent myself as the buyer. So I'm getting a commission from the seller. Then when we're done with the flip and we put it back on the market, I represent the flip as the listing agent. So
Right.
I'm really involved with those kind of things. And also marrying the two, it just gives you more technology at your fingertips. So now being a realtor and a license and an investor, I have the MLS at my fingertips. I can look up this, I can look up land, I can look up expires, I can look at all different things. It gives me a lead database that I can attack. So I think having a license has its pluses and minuses for all investors, but for me, it's more definitely more pluses.
Hmm. And why are you curious? Why are you said you're getting away from representing yourself in your own deals? Is it a liability thing?
It's not a liability thing at all
Oh,
because
okay.
I have it's separate. The S corp is separate from my realtor side. I let everyone know that hey, I actually own the property, so they know everything's out there. I think it's just
Disclosed,
more
right?
about giving others opportunities,
Hmm. I
just
like
to
that.
say and actually start to really take more off of my plate. I'm the kind
Yeah.
of person that I like to do a lot, and I don't need to do a lot. So I need to start taking more off of my plate, and that's one of the things that I can start with. And if it helps someone else get a listing and get buyers from that listing, they'll get a commission from selling it, and so be it.
Yeah, and I would say also, I mean, I represent myself on my own deals too, but negotiations, there might be, more objective coming from somebody else, right? You're negotiating for yourself is
Sometimes it gets a
a
little
little
bit.
different.
I don't want to do that because it's my house,
Yeah.
but you know. But honestly, a lot of times with negotiations for my my flips and my properties, it's actually almost an easier negotiation on my part because I know what I need. I know what I'm looking for. And if I can make it work for the buyer, I make it work for the buyer. I'm not in those situations, I'm not really even worried about myself.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a skilled negotiator, obviously, then you know how to create a win-win or give value to all sides,
Exactly.
right? So everyone's satisfied, and you get what you want, and give people what they want as well.
I have a flip that we literally just got under contract. They did inspections, all types of and inspections were like unheard of a couple of months ago. But we sat on the market for about 2 3 weeks. We priced our flips aggressively. I do say this. Every flip that I've ever done in whatever neighborhood we've done it, we've set records as far as things being sold in that neighborhood. So it's almost looks like it's overpriced initially because they'll look at the comps and be like, well, these comps don't match what they're listing for. But then they go and see the property and you're like, okay, it's actually worth that. So then we actually get to bring values up with all the other properties in the neighborhood. So
Yeah.
we've done that on every single neighborhood that we've been in where we price it aggressively. So we do know what kind of room we have and where we are. And like this client that I just told you about, they got inspections done. They needed some steps added to the back. We'll add the steps. We want to just make sure that they're comfortable moving in. We don't want to ever leave our company investment side with a bad name in the end.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Do you remember your first flip? And can
Oh my God, yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, how did you go through the process? How did it feel, and kind of what was the outcome, if you recall?
So I found it from another investor. He was doing 10 flips at the time. Shout out to my guy Ed. I actually just saw him last week. We kind of lost contact for a little bit, but I got back with him last week.
Cool.
But he was doing 10 properties. This was in Pottstown. It was about 45 minutes from where I was living at the time. And he was like, hey, listen, I have this property in Pottstown. You want to come check it out? I'll sell it to you for $52,000 if you can come up with the financing. Great. I go check it out. Nice brick exterior. The interior is literally gutted. Framework is in. Rough electrical, rough plumbing. My first flip. I didn't have any contractor crews. I didn't have anything. But I said, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. So I found the financing for it. I had someone actually finance 100% of the purchase price. So they financed 52,000 to purchase, and the property needed at least 50,000 at the time in renovations. They financed another 25 for renovations. So I had to put 25,000 of my own money into it over time. The guy that I bought it off of, he actually gave me some contractors to work with, which was great. He gave me his plumber, he gave me his electrician, he gave me his drywaller. That was clutch. If I didn't have the drywaller, I don't know how the house would have that. But he gave me all those guys. They came and they did their work. I paid them. And then me and a couple other guys that I knew, we went in, we finished everything up, made sure it was nice and great. YouTube University, some of it, you know. But it took us a year from start to finish. So we bought it for 52, put 50 into it, and we ended up selling it for about 180.
Hmm.
So I mean, we made good profits, but we did hold it for a year, and it was such a learning process. And I'm so glad that that was my first flip, because from that point on, I was like, hey, if I can flip this, I can flip anything. You know, because we bought this house, it was studs. I actually call that flip no walls. I name all of my flips. That was called no walls. So that was fun.
So, what would you say are maybe your top three lessons from that project?
From that project, um, ask for what you need. Don't be scared, and go do it.
Awesome, I
Those would be
love it,
my
man.
three from that project. Yeah.
Um, how have you kind of shifted your investment strategy, or what you look for now? Now that you have some experience under your belt.
Now that I have some experience under my belt, I will never do a flip like that again. Kind of. It would be a lot easier for me to do it now, but that's not what we look for now. We do look for distressed properties, but we don't look for something that's going to take a year from start to finish. We want something that's going to be 6 months max. So, we've done a lot of flips where we've gone in and we've done maybe a month or two of work and then we put it on the market and sell it. So we don't want anything that's a huge amount of work right now as far as the flips are concerned.
Hmm. Back to your kind of real estate agent side, what do you focus on, to kind of generate leads or to help folks, buy and sell homes?
I do have a website. It's www.archierealtor.com. And on that website, it actually is a lead source. So it has an IDX. It pulls in all the listings that are coming up, whatever's on the market. And I have a lot of clients that just kind of pull up on the website and they search, and it creates a whole database for me. So I do attack a lot of clients through my websites. I also run a referral program. So I have past clients. It's called a bag of money. One second. Do I have a bag of money up here real quick? Give me one second. I don't want to take too
Bag
much
of
time
money.
looking for it. But it's called a bag of money. So I have a referral program that any past clients that I have that send me a client and a deal happens, I send them a gift card in the mail. All you have to do is just send me the client and you will get a gift card in the mail as long as the deal is reached. And I keep track of that and I do honor that. So that's another thing that I like to do is just it. It incentivizes my clients to refer people to me. One, because I love to do a great job with them, so that they want to refer clients to me anyway. But also, when I'm feeling that I'm letting them feel like they're a part of it, of the whole process, and they're getting reward for sending me the client, that really helps as well. Um, but networking, word of mouth, a lot of my business is just people I know. A lot of repeat customers as well. So I do have a lot of clients that I've helped before, and they're still buying and they still call me.
Yeah.
So I love to treat my clients as good as I can.
Yeah, 47% of people find their agents through a recommendation or a
Mhm.
referral, right? So it's not just about the direct relationships that you have, but about who they can refer you to as well, right?
It all boils down to trust.
Yeah,
That client that you helped out, they have to trust you to refer you out. Because if they refer you out and you don't do a good job, they're not going to refer you out again. It makes
yeah,
them look bad.
for sure.
So you have to do a good job with them, and then you have to do a good job with the referrals. And I treat them all the same. I treat every single client as an A1 client. I don't care if your budget is 100,000 or if it's a million. You're going to be treated the same, which is excellent. So
Yeah. And that's how I feel when I recommend vendors too.
mhm.
Like I want to make sure that the vendors do an excellent job by my client, just as I would, right? Because it's an extension of the experience that I'm providing, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
100%.
If you were starting, in real estate today, current economy, current technology, as an agent, what would you focus on right now?
Content,
Content. Can you
content,
elaborate a little bit
content,
more about that?
content. So I've gotten better with content as well. I started my own little podcast. We're a few episodes in.
Awesome.
I do follow my flips a little bit more. I show people more of the process. Um, Content is key in this day and age. Another thing about content is once it's recorded, it never gets old.
Hmm.
The information may change a little bit, but typically, if you're talking about real estate, you're talking about real estate. So to have that content there and to make sure that people know that you are the real estate person to call, that's going to help a lot, especially in this day and age.
Awesome. Talk a little bit about your podcast. Who is it really for? And how could kind of people get access to it?
It's for an array of people at this point. I started off, it was more for like new investors, new clients looking to buy and sell, but it's becoming an array. It's becoming of like it is geared towards the newer clientele, the newer investor, but even the experienced investor can watch this and gain something from it.
Hmm.
So I just like to just talk real estate. It's really what it is. I like to bring people on that I know have either helped me through the industry or someone has told me about them through the industry. And I like to have a conversation with them.
Okay, cool. And how can people get access to it, or where do you stream it
Oh,
at?
we do have a channel on YouTube. It's at the Archie Real Estate Podcast.
Awesome.
So we're currently only on YouTube. We do want to expand that once we get into season two. We'll add more things to it and kind of make it better. That's what I like to do with things. Once season one is over, we'll sit down and look at it and say, okay, how can we make this better? How can we grow our audience? So that's going to be the goal for that podcast.
Awesome, man. What's next for you? Where's the next level, next stage of things?
I want to do something big. I feel like if we're going to be here, let's do something big. So I can see myself building homes within the next year or two. I think that's something that's really on my mind. It's been a lot of things have been on my mind throughout life, and they kind of happen 5 years later, 10 years later.
Yeah,
You
well,
happen when they're supposed
it's
to happen.
yeah, well, it's an interesting thing that things that happen for you usually take a few years in the making, right? So it's like decisions that you make today, actions or seeds that you plant today,
Mhm.
take a few years to kind of to fruition, right?
For instance, my real estate license. When I worked my last corporate job, I walked in the door thinking about my real estate license. I literally walked in the door saying, "Oh, I'm not going to be at this job for long. I'm going to get my real estate license and move on." And I was at the job for 7 years before I actually got my real estate license.
Hmm.
So the thought and the process was always there. Now for me, it's about speeding up that thought and that process and executing it quicker.
Yeah, when you mentioned doing something big, you reminded me of a quote by Nelson Mandela. It says, "There is no passion in playing small, in settling for a life less than one is capable of living." You know,
Exactly.
so it's a powerful quote, and
And I
you
think
made
that's
me
the
think
biggest
of
thing
that
for
always.
me is is I know I'm blessed and I know I'm capable of living that life. So for me not to, and not to be able to give all I have, and not give back and not help others, would, I feel like I'd be selling myself short. So
Since we're on that, I mean, about helping others, giving back, having an impact. Just curious, kind of what areas are you passionate about? Or I mean, you mentioned building homes, right?
mhm.
And maybe that's it. But what are you kind of passionate about or want to get involved in as you continue to evolve and grow?
Completely outside of real estate, I started coaching basketball again lately.
Awesome,
And I really find myself enjoying that because I
it's
get to
dope.
help the kids. There is a teenage group, 14 to 15 years old. So I get to help the kids. I get to be, I don't have to baby them. I can be legit. I don't have to, oh, you're 7'9", you gotta play this way. No, I can teach them a little bit. So I think reaching and getting to the youth a little bit really is something that I think I really enjoy that process, and I think that's something I want to definitely give back as well.
Awesome, man. Well, it's been a pleasure, Muhammad. Before I let you go, I have a few quick thoughts. I love that you're kind of making your own lane, right? You're creating your own life and doing things your way. I feel like a lot of people come into real estate business and I guess get stuck of following a certain one way, right? So I'd love that about you. Is that something you're mindful of, or is that something you can kind of give advice to for
It's
people
something I'm
who?
extremely mindful of.
Hmm,
Um, I've told this to, I think it was my nephew. I said, listen, don't ever let anybody put you in a box. That's all they're going to try to do your whole life.
right.
No matter what it is, where it is, they're going to try to fit you into this little 4x4 box. I try to play outside of that box as much as possible.
Love it, man. One last question. If you were kind of speaking on stage at a big real estate conference, the investors and agents, what would your big message be?
Don't be afraid to ask. We're all going to need help at some point. And
Mm,
if I would have never asked for this loan, or if I was scared to ask, I would have never gotten started. I would have never had the mindset to see and understand that it's available to you. But you have to make yourself worthy of receiving that. So there may be some work that you have to do on the back end to get what you need, but at the end of the day, be prepared and 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 ask for what you need. Now, when you get what you need, have a plan. Don't screw it up. That was the biggest thing with me when I got when my hard money lender, he loaned me that money. I was like, this is $235,000 just sitting on my head at night every time I go to sleep. Okay, so I never thought about it that way because my process was I'm going to get this property and I'm going to finish it no matter what. That's how I
right.
looked at it. But if I looked at it the other way, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's pressure, it's
Yeah.
responsibility.
And that can cripple someone. So don't let that cripple you. Don't let that stop you. Don't be scared and go and ask for what you need and play big. Play big. There's no sense of playing small.
Love it, man. Well, thank you for that message. That's inspiring. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure people will get a lot out of it. So thank you again. I'm grateful for your time, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good one.
You too.